Spider-Man: The Last Hunt. Peter Parker, now attending college, works as a photographer and video editor for the Daily Bugle. Here, he meets Eddie Brock, an incompetent, dishonest journalist and soon-to-be adversary of Peter. Meanwhile, Peter is unable to focus in school due to the perpetual tirades and vexations of a classmate by the name of Harry Osborn. At the same time, Peter is forced to pursue a new street-level threat. Felicia Hardy, simply known as the Black Cat, has made a name for herself as Manhattan's serial burglar. Struggling to balance work, school, and his life as Spider-Man, Peter's mental health goes on a downward spiral, leaving him vulnerable to the influence of the Venom symbiote. Shortly after bonding with the alien creature, Peter begins to embrace the dark side of his personality. He exposes Eddie for his lack of journalistic integrity, getting him fired. He punches Harry Osborn, and he gives in to his lust for Black Cat. During this period, New York witnesses a much crueler Spider-Man, one who brutalizes criminals, hospitalizing many in the process. This slew of violence catches the attention of Sergei Kravinoff, a bounty hunter obsessed with the infamous Spider. During their first confrontation, Peter fends off the crazed hunter. However, this is not the last that Peter will see of Crane. Peter, realizing how the symbiote has manipulated him, finally rids himself of its control, transferring the creature to a distraught, vengeful Eddie Brock. Without the additional strength and durability of the symbiote, when confronted by Craven for a second time, Peter is finally defeated. After tranquilizing Peter, Craven buries him alive. Now donning the red and blue tights, Craven attempts to usurp the Spider by capturing Eddie Brock, who has now become one with the symbiote. After 3 days, Peter emerges from near death. He then tracks the hunter down only to find a man unwilling to fight him. Following Craven into his basement, Peter is presented with Venom, a being of amalgamated rage and a physical representation of the beast that Peter refuses to become. Releasing Venom from his prison, Craven watches the two fight. Peter, defeated again and at the mercy of Venom, apologizes to both Eddie and the symbiote. Coming to his senses, Eddie releases Peter and vanishes into the night. As police sirens approach the mansion, an enraged Peter weds Craven up. Sergei tells Peter that because of his unwillingness to kill, unlike him, he now respects Peter, not as the Spider, but as a man. Sergei, willing to turn himself in, tells Peter to go. Weeks later, Peter meets with Eddie Brock in a coffee shop. Eddie acknowledges that he was a lousy journalist and forgives Peter for reporting him. He also tells Peter that he is moving to San Francisco. The two say goodbye, and Peter tells Eddie that he has to hurry because he is late for a party. When he arrives, Peter is greeted by none other than Harry Osborn. Harry apologizes for being so cruel to Peter and admits that he deserved the punch. Harry then questions him as to why he's so early. Peter reluctantly admits that he has only been to one other house party, and the two chuckle. As the night progresses and more people arrive, Harry becomes preoccupied when the doorbell rings again. He asks Peter if he would be willing to answer the door, and Peter agrees. As he opens the door, he stands face to face with MJ. She looks him in the eyes and says, "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot."